Alfa Romeo has been pretty close to disappearing more than once. The Italian government had to bail the company out. Its factories were nearly destroyed during World War II. And decades later, Alfa Romeo got into such bad financial shape that the government eventually had to find someone willing to buy it. And the crazy part is, this wasn't always some struggling little car company. At one point, Alfa Romeo was one of the biggest names in racing. So how did it go from that to almost disappearing? Let's go back to the beginning. In 1906, a French company called Derek opened a factory near Milan. The idea was to build cars for the Italian market. It didn't exactly take off. A few years later, some Italian investors bought the struggling factory and started a new company in 1910 called ALFA. And pretty much from day one, ALFA had two things going for it. They knew how to build interesting cars. They weren't very good at making money. Then World War I came along and the company switched over to military production. A businessman named Nicola Romeo eventually took control, and in 1918 his name was added to the company. That's where Alfa Romeo came from. And not long after that, Alfa discovered something it was really good at: racing. Alfa Romeo started competing all over Europe, and they weren't just showing up to make up the numbers, they were winning. In 1925, Alfa's Tipo P2 won the first world championship for Grand Prix cars. The company also became a major name in races like the Mille Miglia and the Targa Florio. And there's a pretty interesting connection here. Before Enzo Ferrari built Ferrari, he was involved with Alfa Romeo. He started out as a racing driver and eventually became a major part of Alfa's racing operation. So if you go far enough back into Ferrari's history, you eventually end up at Alfa Romeo. The problem was that racing cost a ridiculous amount of money. Alfa was building some incredible cars, but the business itself wasn't doing nearly as well. Then the Great Depression hit. By the early 1930s, Alfa Romeo was in serious financial trouble, and in 1933, the Italian government stepped in and took control of the company. Basically, Alfa had to be rescued, and for a while, the rescue actually worked. Alfa became a major industrial company, producing cars, trucks, and aircraft engines while still building a serious racing program. Then World War II changed everything. Alfa's factories were important because of all that industrial and military production, which made them targets for Allied bombing. Large parts of the factories were destroyed, so when the war finally ended, Alfa had a massive problem. They had to rebuild their factories, restart production, and somehow figure out what the company was going to look like in the post-war world. A lot of companies wouldn't have survived that. Alfa did. And honestly, the next few decades were probably the best time to be an Alfa Romeo fan. In 1954, Alfa launched the Giulietta. It was small, stylish, and quick, and it became a huge success. Then came the Giulia in the 1960s. This was the era that really built the Alfa Romeo image we still know today. Beautiful cars, great engines, and handling that made you actually want to take the long way home. For a while, Alfa looked like it had everything figured out. But underneath all of that success, the company was getting more expensive and harder to manage. And then the 1970s happened. Alfa was about to make some very expensive decisions. The government wanted more industry in southern Italy, so Alfa built a huge new factory near Naples. The plan sounded great. More jobs, more production, more cars, but things didn't go nearly as planned. The factory was plagued by production problems, labor disputes, and political interference. Then the oil crisis hit, car sales suffered, and Alfa's finances started getting ugly again. And this time, the government couldn't just keep throwing money at the problem forever. By the 1980s, Alfa Romeo was in serious trouble, and eventually, the Italian government decided it was time to sell. That's when two companies stepped into the fight. One was Fiat, the other was Ford. And for a moment, the future of Alfa Romeo came down to which one of them was willing to take the company. That's where the story gets really interesting.